Successful women are financially powerful, but emotionally exhausted, and nobody's talking about it. Today, we're going to talk about something that every hiring woman and every entrepreneur feels, but rarely names: the identity, the responsibility, and the emotional weight behind success. This is my friend Diana Murphy. Hi, Diana.
Great to be here.
And she works with high impact leaders who are extraordinary at what they do, but they hit a point where something feels off. She helps them shift from overwhelmed and reactive to grounded and intentional and strategic. That's where we both like to live.
Yeah.
And who better to talk with about money, identity, leadership, and transition at a business, especially for women? No one other than Diana Murphy. So again, hi. So great to hang out. And this is our first Money Unfiltered that I'm doing. And I'm honored to be able to do that with you, my friend.
Oh, me too. And I think what really is grabbing me in the energy of this moment is the unfiltered part.
Absolutely.
That we talk about
Absolutely.
what women, what leaders are so afraid sometimes to discuss or don't have a space. And so I think it's really important that we're having this conversation.
Absolutely. I know I see this all the time with my clients. They can be very financially powerful, but they feel responsible for everyone on their team, their
Yes.
family, you name it. And they're doing everything right on paper, but emotionally, it just doesn't feel stable. Let's talk about what's really going on behind the scenes.
I'd love that.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, let's start with kind of what I think of as successful but exhausted. And I know you work with high impact leaders. So, why do you think so many wildly successful women are exhausted, overwhelmed, or disconnected from themselves?
I do think there's so much asked of people that run a business, founding owners. I mean, that is a huge plate. But I also think you and I talked about this a little bit in email, and you had a great article about there is an invisible load also. So I think that even though there are so many beautiful women founders, they're still carrying a load that's invisible. They're daughters of ailing parents, they're parents themselves, the people I work with, everything's going really well until like the band, they have a capacity for so much. And by the they, I mean high impact, high capacity leaders. And I just think what is not seen is the additional responsibility they have through just circumstance or by their own high level of integrity of and the high valuing of their family.
Well, and to that point, and I'm a proud Gen Xer, but we had back to sandwich generation
Yeah.
stuff, aging parents. And I have a lot of clients. There's a thing that's actually out there. The oldest daughter,
Mhm.
generally, not always, but tends to be the
Oh,
caregiver for the parent.
yep.
And then it's who's paying for it, which sibling is the one that's helping out. And it creates all sorts of crazy family dynamics. And that's before with what you're saying with their own family and with their direct reports at work. And if they own businesses, like what are they doing with their employees? So it's this load like you're talking about.
Yeah. It's a really big emotional load. And when you think about it, isn't it fascinating that you state that fact that firstborn women are pretty likely to open a business. Like so, then they're also the ones asked to be the leader in the family.
Right.
Yeah. So it makes
It's
sense.
sociologically interesting
Yeah.
that's the case. And I know it's not always true,
Right.
but a lot of times it is. And I've had situations where, in doing all the financial planning work for the founder or for the woman that's a senior leader in corporate, what's happening is they're making the money and they're the breadwinner. And so
Mhm.
that's creating sort of additional sort of sociological issues
Yeah.
within the partnership dynamic and gender roles, all the things that go along with that. And never mind, like you said, that you're running a business. And I always encourage my clients to have a family meeting with their parents. And we can all just go ahead and get nauseous now about having to talk to your parents. Like, are you financially secure? Do you have
Yeah.
long term care insurance? Or am I going to
Yeah.
be paying for this? So,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are not easy conversations
No.
to
No.
have. And, I had a situation where I don't know if I had shared this with you. She had talked to her parents. They, of course, are like, we're good. And then the dad had a stroke. So turned out they were broke. There was no life insurance. The daughter, who was an SVP at a major fortune company, had to come in. They short sailed the house. And we worked it into cash flow. In the plan, she subsidizes mom's social security.
Mm.
And these, again, it's like, okay, how you and I are all about open communication and like just get it out there already.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But it
you,
just isn't with the generation. I think that's such a generational shift. I have had my own challenges of making sure my mom is forthright about what the situation is. And I still feel like it's really cloudy. But I think there's two dynamics here. There is the reality of these things happening. And then there's the reaction of the person that it's happening to. And I think there's a natural taking on more than is theirs too. Like, I think there's a dynamic of I can, and so often you see this, it'll be just easier if I do it.
yeah,
And that sneaky way of thinking about it can really burden us with doing more than really we need to. So there's that, but there's the emotional load of just the subtle expectation of what a certain person would do. And I think women have a double load. We still have a double standard. Even if we're the primary breadwinner, there's still an expectation of how we relate with childcare or things at home, unless that couple has had the hard conversations and broken some of that structure. So I think
yeah,
if women that are listening can really be careful about, is this really mine to carry emotionally? I think that's just one way to intersect those situations because there's so much we can't change, but we
right.
can change the way that we're taking on too much ourselves.
Well, and what's interesting, you may remember like 2017, I became really interested in this breadwinning thing because that
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
work with women entrepreneurs at a high level and then senior leaders in corporate. And I was like anecdotally seeing all this stuff. And so I went out and sought out the top academics literally in the world because there's only like five of them that have any body of research
Oh,
on
right.
because
Oh,
they're sociologists. And so learned a lot. But one of the things I found fascinating was obviously breadwinning can create power dynamics in relationships, but the three indicators for that wasn't just money, it was also age and education. And
oh, interesting.
yeah, and an adjacent indicator for who has power in the relationship, we can just, all the women, we can all cringe now, is housework. So,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
and so how that looks too. I mean, and what I see, and I don't know what your experience is in this, and I think this is true not just for the entrepreneurs that we work with, the women entrepreneurs, but also for women across the board that are high performers, is the fact that we're so used to delegating. Like you said, we're either going to own it ourselves as the leader,
Yeah.
or if we're
Yeah.
not interested at all in owning it, we're going to delegate it. And we see that a lot with money. And
Oh, but is it delegating or is it abdicating?
no, they're delegating
They're
it to their
delegating.
male partner.
Okay.
And in fact, I had a woman equity law partner. So she's making over $1 million a year. And she was Duke Law. So it isn't like she was dumb.
Oh, no.
And I have a lot of women that have male spouses that are stay at home. And so she's like, you know what, you handle the money. I'm going to do my thing. But they never had check ins and really
Yeah.
talked through. And so he asked her for a divorce. And she was completely blindsided by this. And you might be like, well, she's still going to have a lot of money. The reality was, it did not put her in a position of power because she didn't have much. I don't want to say she didn't have financial literacy, but she had never been involved.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the divorce took 3 times as long, was 3 times as expensive.
Oh,
And ultimately, what's so funny is she came back to me and she needed some time when I first met her. And this has been a while. And she's like, you know what? I'm good now. And I don't think I was ready at that point. You know, she's still earning, but it's fascinating that I hear a lot of women say, like, he has an MBA. I don't like math, or some, frankly,
yeah.
BS like that.
Yeah. And it
It-
can happen on both sides, but in this
yes.
dynamic, and that's why I asked about abdication. There's a way that I watch this with leaders as they're bringing on teams
Hmm.
that they let go too freely. Like it's without true engagement or
Yes.
imparting values in decision making. Or even if she, like, we'll use this as a beautiful example, and then she did nothing wrong, but that the letting go so freely can feel so good,
Mhm.
but that loss of power and loss of where her values were not implemented in how those decisions were made. They did not have shared, this is what we're going to do about the money, and you're going to go do it. When we fully let go and think that problem is just going to be taken away, we've disconnected our leadership energy to it.
Well, not just that. I mean, I've got probably 3 business owners over
Yeah.
the years that completely relinquished financial control and their employee just outright stole from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Some of the
think it's a
smartest people
balance.
I know, I have a dear friend that and it was a partner of years
Mhm.
that everything went beautifully. And I think it was business number three, and she lost all her money.
Yeah.
And these are not dumb people.
Right.
And so I think maybe for the sense of the audience of not creating, and we're not, I know that's not our intention, like of creating fear, but when leaders really look at how heavy their emotional load is, but get support, that then they can be in their leadership energy in more spaces like decisions at home. It doesn't mean that you have to be a part of the day to day, but that their leadership energy, their wisdom, their insight, their values are imparted and part of the process. But if their emotional bandwidth is so overwrought, it's hard to do that. And that's why I think having the right support, the right advisors, the right, not even mindset, but the right care and right lifestyle that helps support everything that's on their plate.
And it's figuring out that balance, because that's what I talk about at home, because the
Yeah.
fights inevitably are over expenses. And hey, if
Yeah.
I'm making this money, like, why do you get to spend all this money and I can't?
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm not the budget police. I
Right.
care about what the household spend is, because if I'm going to model, if they have enough money, I got to know what it takes to run the household. I don't care if it's shoes, tech, or
Mhm.
wine. It really doesn't matter. But being able to be open about that can really, in a personal relationship, take things to a new level. But to your point, this is very applicable as well in business. And I
Yeah.
think the $10 million question that you're touching on, what is the balance? Because leaders are delegating. You and I are leaders. We have to delegate to our teams. Like, where's the balance of knowing, and how much do we need to know at a high level versus when do
Yeah.
we do the deep dive from a time standpoint?
And I do think it's a little bit of an attitude, simple as the example of hiring my first virtual assistant
Mhm.
12 years ago, as how I lead now. It's turning everything over and feeling the freedom of that, or is it holding things loosely and making sure that you are paying energetically, attention to it. There's a discernment there
Right.
that I think as leaders mature, especially as they go through transitions of developing teams and the ways that they are managing their household, it's making sure you don't check out emotionally, that you stay engaged with the relationship, with the owning. And the bottom line, the end is like, yes, you've asked your team to do it, but have you done the leadership piece of that of making sure they know it's really expected and you're checking results and checking the end result of that?
Well, and I knew for me, I've had my business for 26 years and I look at it and it's really only coming to the surface now as we're going through this massive growth phase
Yeah,
is because I'm classic visionary. My number two is classic integrator. We're a big EOS office. But I say
perfect.
this to say I was holding more than I needed to, even though it was
Yes.
outside my sort of role
Hmm.
for two reasons. Number one, I feel guilty that my integrator, I mean, she runs the business. And like, I want to help. So I'll go
Yeah.
do stuff.
Yeah.
And the second thing, it's less of this now, but I find this with other people, it's a trust thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And those two things it was pretty fascinating, to reflect on myself. And I have to believe that you see that with leaders as well.
Yes. When we are experiencing emotions of guilt or trust, like I can't let this go, I do believe what's accessible to leaders in the work that I do is helping them to really see the subconscious, like what's at play, because they're not doing that on purpose. That woman that turned everything over to her husband was not on purpose abdicating. It's like her bandwidth was so up to here that
Right.
there was nothing more. And so, what I love doing is helping owners to have more of a capacity by realizing when, if guilt is managing the decision making, you will take on more. So getting that subtle understanding, like you've gotten an awareness of where decisions are coming from and getting cleaner and cleaner about what really is right for them to keep on their plate and
Mhm.
what they really need to be operating at a top level. And it might be doing less.
Well, exactly. What that's the new trend. Stop doing more. Again, especially
Yes.
like you're saying, what are we taking off? Less is more in
Yeah.
this case. No pun intended on my last name, but
Less is more. I like it.
exactly.
Own it.
What do you see as the breaking point with women entrepreneurs that you're working with?
So it really goes to a little bit of like what you saw in yourself, the guilt, the subconscious self-talk conversations can have a much, especially in growth, especially when dad gets sick, when we're brought to a more vulnerable place, when things aren't humming as our capacity is like something tweaks. A lot of our subconscious thinking is the reaction
Right.
instead of our more frontal cortex, but also our deep vision, like when you talked about vision and implementation. And I think the first work I do with every person I work with, men and women,
Yeah.
is really hearing how where they're getting stuck and where they're making decisions almost against themselves or in ways that I'm like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep working 8 hours when I need da, 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 da. Like, there's a different decision
Right.
desiring to be made? It is understanding that the internal conversation is running the show a little bit and that an awareness there is needed. And that's where coaching can be so powerful to decide which ones you want to engage with and don't.
What do again, not that we're trying to promote your business, but we're kind of trying to promote your business a little bit too. What do you see with your most successful clients, these business owners that are doing like where my focus is above 5 million of revenue? What are some trends that are just fascinating to you that you really have to work with their mindset on how to shift?
So I think the big shifts come. I see a trajectory, a growth curve. I know you understand this growth curve. This is where our dinner like conversation was so key. The vision, the white space, the energy to as a founder to start a business is why like that creates a gorgeous business.
Right.
And then in the growth of that, there is the space where then that person has created that success, but now the business is happening to them. And if they're not careful, they're losing the vision, the insight, the wisdom, the regeneration. Their time capacity is squeezed. They might have like circumstances that are squeezing it. And they now are in reaction mode. And the day to day life and the experience of the business is it's happening to them now.
Right. It's not
And
happening
it
for them, it's
feels
happening to them.
horrible. Now it's like gold handcuffs or like that. And there's so many options. But once you're in it and take high responsibility for your business and you're growing it and responding and taking care of all the people you've hired and all your gorgeous clients, the business now is happening to you. And that is a space where having someone help them to really make sure they're making decisions that are part of their next vision, that
Yeah,
they
otherwise
have
I
got
called
to
it the
create
gilded
space.
yeah, I called it
Yeah.
the gilded cage. Like I hit
Yes.
the
Yeah.
phase.
That's a
I'm
good,
like, why
yeah.
am I doing this? Like I
Yeah.
might as well be an employee somewhere. And then it was
Yeah.
like that phase of how do you level up and
We
then really
recreate like a lot of why I've coached a lot of people that have started businesses and then they're really confused why they're doing exactly. They created the same work day, the same schedule, and it's all from that subconscious and conscious mindset and what we've adopted in our culture. This is what we're taught. If you really want to succeed, burn the midnight oil, work 50 hours. And that does not work when you start having families, when you've built the business and now have a lot of responsibility. And it is in that up level, which I've watched you do, is taking a step, being introspective, taking some time. How do I want to do this next? And I think this is key that leaders that will get to their next space instead of like, okay, I'll just do it this way and I'm just going to live through it. Handcuffs, right? You can do that. But what they're missing is having white space time, visionary time,
yeah.
and operating out of the whole reason they started this business in the first place. Their values are getting, rubbed up against. And it can be as simple as taking a pause and implementing some planning time each week. Like you talked when we opened the call about being very intentional about what happens this week, what happens in the month. And they can just be even small intentions. We don't need massive to-do lists. Visionaries do not need a massive to-do list. They need to know, ooh, what do I want to create? And
Well,
when
and
people
that's
are pushed to that boundary, they can't access that gorgeous vision anymore.
well, and
That's what I
that's just
love
it.
getting to with people.
I call it tactical and strategic time.
Yeah.
Tactical is when I have to be the doer and do the
Yes.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And strategic time is so much more fun. And
Yes.
I think for a little bit, I used to take a day every month. And there's this really, we're both Atlanta based. So there's this
Mm-hmm.
really cool coffee place, Chattahoochee Coffee, that's like super secret spy coffee house inside an apartment complex. You have to have the magic code to get in through the flipping gate. And then it
It's like a
overlooks
speakeasy for coffee.
it is. And you overlook the Chattahoochee River, and it's so inspiring. And that's where I
Oh,
do my best work. And that's when I stopped trying to save money on crappy hotels
yeah.
when I would travel for work. I'm like, I need a place that is not soul crushing
Yeah.
and to be around beautiful things so that I can get ideas.
Yeah. And I think this is what leaders just don't realize. It's like creating the thing, but this isn't how I thought it would go. And they
Right.
still have this desire for growth and they start talking themselves out of it, start thinking that the circumstances are saying, oh, I shouldn't do the next thing. And it's only because they right now in that moment don't have the energetic capacity. And I've watched leaders that literally would not take founding leaders that would not take a day off. But I will meet a leader where they are. I do not care. Like I don't have this perfect formula of like you only should work these much. Everybody's different. But the beauty of watching this client take all she was willing to do is a Sunday break. And I just tapped what was really important to her. And she would go do a cold plunge swim every Sunday morning
Awesome.
in a pond, like after a walk. And that's where she started.
That's
And I know her life's
awesome.
very different now. This was in this high, massive growth, and she still was operating like I have to do it all. Like I would love some other decisions to be made, but that's not my business as a coach. But if you start with life-giving things that you're dying to do, like you being in a beautiful place and letting your brain just create, and that is that missing piece, I think, when you think of scaling and growth after big success. It's so important.
Right. It's funny because I recently wrote an article for Forbes on why we don't have more women that are at $10 million of revenue that own businesses.
Yes.
There's a bunch of us that are at seven figures. And, I plateaued when I hit a million. I plateaued and I've been inching up. But, everybody talks about Hardy's book about 10x is easier than 2x. And that's the whole bit with scaling. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to wait for these breakthroughs to occur. And
Yes.
oh my God.
Like being as patient as you were when you founded the first thing, right? It's bringing in what worked for me as a human to create what's here. Where can I bring that back in to the next level? And there's so much power in rest and recovery and really knowing what our mental limits are because like we were talking again as we open like less is more, our brains can't think gorgeously for 10 hours a day, we just can't. And if we learn ways when we are at high capacity, have a lot of demands on our time, is what really restores you, what really lights you up? Like you talking about the Chattahoochee, the simplest things. We think in our culture will be like, you need to take a vacation, go take a sabbatical. You'll have the best year ever afterwards. No, I'm like, have the best Friday afternoons off every week or Saturday coffee time with your to-do list. Every client of mine, when I help them to carve that out as a non-negotiable, and it can be 15 minutes throwing the ball with the dog. I just think of all my examples of all the people I've worked with, they start getting that vibrancy back that is so key to creation. And I think that's what we're talking about here. It's really important.
Interesting because I think probably I'm like so many of your clients. I keep thinking I can hack the system and work a little bit more, and that's going to give me this added advantage.
That is capitalism, baby. That's like the
Capitalism
capitalism.
of
And
America.
this is like, welcome to our system. And we are learning to hack it by what is happening for my clients, what I'm watching happening for you is when we really realize that our vision energy is the driving force, not our mind,
Right.
that the mind is to respond to the vision, not the other way around. And when our brain is like, oh, yeah, just work one more hour. And
Right.
then, I overworked and burnt myself out in my first 18 months of coaching because I believed every one of those thoughts. And I was toast. And no one was getting the best of me except maybe my midday clients, but nothing else. And we're sold a lie. We cannot operate at burnout hours, but the beauty of it is that when you look at the leaders that you work with and I work with, they have a high capacity. They love high energy. It's finding some of those beautiful things that just light their hearts up and making sure they're spending time there.
Well, and it's funny, so many entrepreneurs that I know are like myself, like they were college athletes. And so
Oh, wow.
it's the same mindset of like I was a swimmer back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And so, hey, let me just go swim 500 more yards and just bang that out. And it's the same framework. And like, I've been
Diminishing
wrong.
returns. After a certain hour, I coached the most exciting experiment was a PhD in psychology, and she also was a coach. So she's opening a coaching practice. She's in PhD program, and she hired me. And so we go into finals, and she was like, I know I'm not going to do it the same way I've done before. And we literally carved out from her own direction of like, I go, what is your max of study time? And we like carve that out. And I go, oh, now, and I would give her assignments and she'd like go for coffee and go for lunch with her, boyfriend. And like she carved out what she really knew worked. Like, and that's what's interesting. I think that owners, our brain will override what we really know works for us.
Right.
And that's also getting really grounded on what is my way. But she knocked it out of the park, had straight A's. Her relationship didn't tank. She had just moved in with her boyfriend, and they had a delightful time nurturing her. He's like, he's cooking for me while I finish up my 4 hours, and then I'm going to study, and then and it was like a game. And I hope anybody that's listening to this is like, oh, what's getting your attention? Are you missing in your life that can energize exactly what you want to be up to and grow?
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Since we both work with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, and by the way, we both do a lot of stuff with exit planning,
Yeah.
what do you see emotionally when a woman is preparing to sell or step back? I have perspective, but I want to hear
Yeah.
your perspective from the psychologist
Uh,
standpoint.
when you think of if anyone has built a business that's sellable, you think of the identity and the life and the pride, and it's a part of I mean, it is so imbued. It's cellular. It's a part of you. And so what I see is a misunderstanding that there is a grief process. There just is. And none of us wants to be sad about a change, even though we're thrilled about the price per se, or like you can be thrilled about your exit plan, but there is a letting go that everyone in the world thinks you should be happy about. And it can be very disorienting because it is the shifting sands. It's I don't know what my life looks like without putting all this energy into this. And I think it's a space for owners to get very soft with themselves on how they're reacting to that, and also have a place to understand whether it's coaching or therapy or a really good mentor that understands it, to really have a space where they can process the disorientation that is.
Well, and to your point, I think, and so much of their identity
Yeah.
and how their employees see them, how the community sees
Yes.
them, it's all tied up there, and that's all they've
Yeah.
known.
Yeah.
Can
Someone that empty nest. My trajectory was mom and supported high corporate life. Like, and I was stay at home. But the minute I had freedom, I started my business. But the identity shift in all these spaces is it deserves attention, because our pride, our energy, and who we really think we are in that, there's something. And again, let's get back to our culture. There's so many kudos for it. There's so much high regard. And we've got to be so okay within ourselves about our value as a human being.
yeah.
And I think that's like literally whether a person is exiting or not, that is the work I do. Like, remember, the first thing I talked about was what is the first thing you see? It's that subconscious negative conversation. This is where we're not humaning very well towards ourselves and to everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's being really curious and honoring this identity change and making sure you're supported as you go through it. Nothing has gone wrong. The shifting sands are real. The uncertainty feels terrible. And having a way to normalize that is really important.
In the exit community, I know I see often, especially with other professionals, because we send a lot of business to attorneys and accountants and all the
Yeah.
things. And all of us, the one thing in common is everybody waits to the last minute.
Yeah.
And we all know, we all say the same thing. You need 5 years. I've had two family businesses this week I've been on the phone with, and one of them thinks they're going to do it this year. They want to do an internal sale to a key employee.
Yeah.
And she's like, we have no SOPs.
Yeah.
Like, She runs all, she's the operator and the
Yeah.
integrator, and she runs the finance. And I'm like, what have you done to begin to replace yourself? And she's like, I think I'm going to start on that next week. And she said, we have to get the sale done this year. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
So,
when we put that's a little bit too putting the cart before the horse. Like that can really, I've seen this in exit. I worked with an individual that it ended up taking 2.5 years, and it went from offers that her EBITDA was so high, like it was so big, and she had physical illness, and so the need was great.
yeah.
But what was so powerful, and I think that this is something that owners need to hear, if they can honor their values and let that guide, this goes to identity. If they can let that be the filter, then the decisions get easier and clearer. So it might be for this owner that is putting the cart before the horse. He or she thinks the destination is this, but if
Yep.
her values are solid sale, it doesn't hurt employees, it goes well, there's growth after, then she may slow down. Like that's an easier way. It's like, oh, if I really want this, and this is my dream exit, then I'm going to have to start here. And it always, like most cases, will take longer than you think.
Well,
And from this client that I work with, she went from outside sale to internal to outside to internal. And the reason it flipped was always a value rub. It was the external financing when they got to the details were not regarding her employees properly. And like, nope, can't do it. Nope. And her values guided it. So she, I know, is sleeping well at night, but she gave it the time it needed. And now it's closed, and she is learning that she likes to be off. And, like it's wild. But look at that. Sometimes forcing it to be too quick can be that people don't want to experience the layers and don't want it to, like, let me just rip the band aid off. It'll be
yeah.
better. But what it dishonors is their values and integrity about what they really wanted for that business. So if we as advisors can help them really look through that lens, okay, what is your really biggest intention with this? Is it to just walk away with a check and be done?
Right.
No, those aren't founding owners. That is not what they're about.
In fact, it's funny, like our first meeting with anybody is called Vision and Values.
Yes, very
And
important.
right. And so every decision we make from the vision and values, I build something called a client compass. And
Oh,
then,
that's good. That's so good.
yeah, and then I filter all the planning decisions through that. And listen, I'm a math girl. I went to Georgia Tech. I'm an engineering undergrad. So, like, I can play both sides.
Yeah, because she's visionary. That's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, um, but
That's
yeah,
a gorgeous combination for them. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's funny because I had that same conversation with a client yesterday. They've owned that business for like 40 years and they're trying to do an internal sale. And back to this person, they think they're going to do it in a year. I'm like, and it's less about the money for them.
Yeah.
Like it's about the employees and the culture and maintaining that. And it was really fascinating to hear that because most people I know, especially more, I'd say on the corporate side, are more mercenaries, like
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
me and
Yeah.
now I don't have to deal with the crap anymore.
Right. Yeah. Get me out of here. Get me out of the golden, like the handcuff, the
Right.
golden gilded cage. But I think what's so important for anyone listening, whether you're on the advisory side or you are an owner, the clarity and the power of your decision making when you honor your values fully
Mhm.
can be a perfect driving engine to that process. It can help you slow down when you know it might harm the employees. For example, like what you're seeing, this is going to probably take a little longer.
Right.
And I know that like, I have been in a season of life myself where that value driven piece of it has given me so much peace, but it also gives me so much energy to do what's next. Like,
Right.
so we're not like, again, with owners and exit, we understand when you decide and kind of get that glimmer of wanting to be out, you want it to be fast, but they don't because the slowness and the doing it in a way that regards even their own nervous system going through this. That's what I was able to witness with this client is that she also, her health got better because thank God it was long COVID. But what happened for her too was that she didn't put so much pressure on herself and let the process evolve and honored her own integrity of sniffing out who was telling the truth to her and who were the people that she really was going to work with and in a transition. And she moved from band-aid rip off very fast to really going with the whole journey of it. And it paid off. It was a value driven sale. And she, like your client, like she now is thrilled and now helping encourage all these new leaders now in her organization and seeing who's going to be that vision energy and who's going to bring in what's next for that company.
I think sometimes, especially those of us that are, again, like high performers,
Mhm.
we get caught up in shitting on each other
Yes.
and like how we should feel or what should be happening. And,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and frankly, a lot of senior leaders I work with, they feel broke.
Yeah.
They've got a great balance sheet. They have a nice lifestyle too. And I think it's how we frame all of these things together for us, even when we're in different seasons and
Mhm.
back to, hey, I have a $50 million business, but I don't have $50 million in the bank right now. Our
Yeah.
operating account is 10 grand, whatever the number
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And creating that change for that person to get to a place where the business is serving them, not just growing and having this top line, but remembering as founding owners that the business is supposed to support. Like, I feel like that's the gorgeous work you do is making sure that business does the job it's supposed to in
Right.
supporting the owner's goals. And
Well, and
sometimes
that's what was
some big
so
shifts need to happen.
well, and that was what was so eye-opening for me with exit planning for so long. I'm just so caught up with the profit and loss.
Yeah.
And when I started understanding more about how do we grow value,
Yeah.
like how big do we need to grow this company? What do I need to sell it for? How big do I need to grow it to sell it for that? And then who I'm going to sell it and what's the deal structure? I mean, you and I both got that through the Exit Planning Institute and all of that. But in fact, I just talked to Scott Snyder
Yeah.
over there yesterday, but that was so obvious, but like it was such a wow, eye-opening concept for me on don't focus on revenue. That's all ego.
Yeah.
How much value can we create to increase the value of the company?
Yeah. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but there are so many structures and ways of thinking that we've been taught and that operate well and are really encouraged. And so before we know it, we've only focused on revenue. Again, like you talked about compass. What if that's also when that awareness is there, it's making that 1 degree shift?
Yeah.
Making that absolute 1 degree shift, it's like, oh, I'm going to pay a little attention to profitability and what is sustainable long term. What am I really investing money in? But the
Right.
shoulds come from outside ourselves usually. And it's like, I should be a 6 figure if I'm this, and I should be a 7 figure by this. And that robs us of creating businesses and lifestyles that are meant to serve us. Not just the report card. It comes from, like, that report card
It
mentality
does.
too.
It
Yeah.
does. And those of us that are competitive and
Yeah.
got straight A's, it's
Yeah.
very hard to unwind that mindset. It's
I wrote so much about perfect school behavior when I first was working as a coach because of that's where I came from, and that really can stomp our vibrant growth and our insight. It
yes.
really gets in the way of so much, and if we can be just aware of it, it's a good engine too, like like that competitiveness. And let that be an engine, let that help you work hard and do the things. But having that insight about, I think the beautiful work I do is emboldening owners to do it the way they know deep down they want it to look. So we've
Right.
talked about how the values would be represented. We talk about this, sale I was a part of where her value, every time she started, I could see the rub, and that was how she wanted to do it. No shade on anyone else, like doing it another way where just get out, get the money, go take care of your family. That's fine. But it's honoring, like, how do you want to do this? And
Right.
not talking yourself out of it, but looking for inspiration and then the tools needed to do that next thing.
We talked about this a little bit, but how do you think about responsibility versus authority?
Mm.
And what I mean by this is I see women all the time carrying all the responsibility.
Yes. Oh, and I wrote down when we first started talking over responsibility. And so this is a good thing for us to circle back on.
Huh.
And I
That's
like the word agency. So when you think of responsibility, that comes from expectation, institutional structure, internal, like whatever is incorporated, like what I think I should be doing. And there's a lot of should energy in that kind of responsibility.
right.
But you and I know the people that we work with, the reason they are good, the reason we like working with them is they have a level of integrity of taking responsibility.
Right.
There's a place that's really powerful and is a great contributor to the world, their employees and all. But the over responsibility is abdicating your decision making to outside structures and things outside of yourself instead of what you really want.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. It's like when you see women carrying all the responsibility, but they're hesitating to claim financial authority.
Authority.
I'm wondering how much of that plays into
Yeah.
women being able to negotiate for more salary in the corporate world. I know, like you said, I mean, as women, we want harmony. We've been conditioned this way, this perfectionism BS that I have, that many of us have.
Yeah.
And like not having guilt around power. And I don't like conflict. And I know a lot of people don't either. So I think
Yeah.
all that plays into it.
Yeah. And when there's something really powerful, and I know you watch this all the time, when people start taking their true agency of where they do have power and make decisions from a very grounded place, not reactionary, not, and even the hard way. Like, I do keep going back to this example because it was a beautiful way to watch someone stay in their integrity and almost talk themselves out of it, out of financial need and dropping back into it. And when she dropped into that, she knew who was right to buy her company, who wasn't. Agency. Think of that. When you take agency, you're not reacting, you're not doing things out of structure. You are more heightened awareness is there, and you are operating from so much of your credibility. And so you're operating in a way that you see everything you need to make your decisions too. And I think that, like how we started this whole conversation, when we are overburdened, when we've taken on too much, when our capacity is up to its edge, that is the part of us that stops operating because it's worn out.
Yeah, it's no different than in psychology with compartmentalizing. And I'm really
Right.
that, by the way.
I mean, there is some healthy compartmentalization. That's how we do things more faster.
But it's until it starts leaking out. And that's
Yeah.
what I
So,
found.
yeah.
Like, and now I started understanding that pattern in myself.
Yeah.
And like you said, it serves you until it doesn't.
Yes.
And then once it starts leaking out, it's like, oh, put that chip back in the box again. Like
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is healthy compartmentalizing. And especially for entrepreneurs with taking risks and stuff,
Yeah.
you have to be able to be functional at doing some of that at some level.
Right. Yeah. And making a decision. I heard somebody that was helping with decision making. It's like If you made a high risk decision, do not revisit it. You're just adding, you're bringing in anxiety. Give it, okay, I'm going to do this for this 3 months, this 6 months. So keep it in the box and then visit it. I think that's a beautiful way to do that. But our
Yeah.
agency, we don't realize how much wisdom, especially as leaders, how much insight. But when we get overwhelmed, we're not reading like, oh, that employee needs more attention, or, oh, I knew that person wasn't right for me, but I've not taken any effort to make sure I make a shift or let that person go. When we lose our agency and our true power in this situation, it's just usually a sign of really doing too much and not resourced enough to be in that vibrant kind of decision making mind.
I like this term permission gap. What's the one thing women won't give themselves permission to want that you see?
Oh, so often it's just white space time off
Yeah.
or a hobby that they cannot see, oh, I can't do that. Like I can't make time, and they can't even see the little steps or ways that that could be brought into their life. So it's a not giving themselves permission to have pleasure, have rest, have white space, have a nothingness that is just for them.
And I see that too in money, in that there's guilt if it's not spent on kids
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
saving.
Yeah.
And same story, like taking financial space and saying
Yeah.
yes to themselves. So I think
Yeah.
it's, we both are saying the same
We
thing.
are. We've experienced so much of the same dynamic in that, persona. And I just think that there's so much solo life done by owners also that they start feeling a little crazy or like they're wrong because when they have struggles, they have no one, to really to go to. You and I talked about that a lot, and that's the honor I get is sometimes I am the first human that hears their whole story and can help them sort what they most want. And I know that's really your experience as well, is like getting in that room and really being able to freely talk about what they want in life, but also through the power of their money and planning well. Yeah, but we don't give ourselves permission, yeah,
And
to
it's
just do,
interesting because I see some shifts, generational shifts too,
yeah.
around family intergenerational wealth and legacy.
Mm.
I work with a lot of clients who grew up poor too. It's really
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
because that's a lot of good energy to become an entrepreneur. I mean, that really can be
Right.
the energy and the fire to build a business.
Right.
Yeah.
There's that, but I see more often than not in the boomer generation, the focus, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong,
Yeah.
but if I had some of these couples, kids in the room, they would have a fit because I know that my client, their goal is to maximize retirement. Like, hey,
Yeah.
let's go do all the things. And like, legacy is not a value
Yeah.
because it's the idea of abundance versus scarcity.
Mhm.
And like, is this even possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's even crazier is I have three clients that are literally money hoarders. And I'm not saying that judgmentally, but there
Yeah.
statistically is impossible for them to ever run out of money. But
Yeah.
they worry about it
Right.
instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, they have huge pensions and they got 10 million bucks in the bank. Like, you're not going to run out of money.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
live off nothing.
Right. And
And
that's from that embedded, like subconscious, our family of origin and money is one of the deepest, almost darkest
yeah,
mindsets that it's so implanted in us without our permission as a child, however we grew up, and then what we were taught about money. I work with a lot of owners that were basically told you can't do that because they didn't want people to take risks. They were at like that scarcity
right.
safety space. And then watching these owners actually go and start that business, even despite that, I'm like, how are you doing this? But it rubs up against that. And I think it's really important for owners to really give some space to that discovery so that they can really have, again, really can have what they really want with their money. Because is that what
Right.
they really want, to see it in the bucket? Like, I'm sure there's other desires that they have for, the way they live, and it's
Well,
like
some people
giving
are afraid to ask
permission.
or even put the energy out that this
Yeah.
is something that they want. I actually just, as you know, I just bought my dream house. It didn't turn out so dreamy when the inspector didn't disclose a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but
I am so sorry for the reality of that.
yeah,
Still
but
the
it's
dream house.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
still my dream house and it's exciting. I just got a lot of renovations I hadn't planned on, but I always had this vision because I'm always like future state thinking, like 3 really nice trips a year in my dream house and like do my thing. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy around like my business and my friends and just hanging out and dinners and all of that. It's an interesting psychology of allowing myself to not want more, but to still be around nice things, like to have
Yeah.
that balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And our growth comes from admitting, again, this is like agency versus responsibility, or
Mhm.
women not being used to taking care of themselves first, but it's like, can you give yourself permission to even just say out loud what you want, and then actually realize how available it is, maybe in a different way? Because sometimes what we want, like the big dream house, the energy of that, I bet for you, is a lot more from what you've been talking about lifestyle. Like the dream house was,
It
yeah,
is, but I'm also on 5 acres, so I
yeah,
wanted like
right. Again, it's the
what is
what,
sanctuary?
yeah. So if the next client you talk to does not have the resources for that type of thing, there are so many ways to have that experience. So that's what I mean by giving yourself permission to really dream. Oh, I don't have enough. You don't even know what the number is.
So I've been manifesting it for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. How would it
So
feel to have that? Yeah. How would it feel to be, this is the woman that I work with. How would it feel to know that your employees are as excited about working before and after the
yeah,
transaction? And
it's
actually,
awesome.
they're now even more than she ever dreamt, because they're taking on leadership and owners. I mean, it's wild. She did not think that was possible.
I know we've been focusing a lot on gender roles
Mhm.
and women entrepreneurs, but what do you see when a woman finally admits she can't keep going the way that she has? Like back to the burnout conversation.
Yeah, so that's a huge disorientation psychologically. It is a space where doing more always created what was great, and now doing more is almost harming their physical well-being. And it's shifting. I have a new client that's in it, and it's a beautiful reminder for me how accessible it is to heal from that if we slow down enough to start letting our vision talk again. It could be as simple as that. I don't know if I'm oversimplifying what you're bringing to the table, but when we always think that doing more is going to create the happiness, the safety, the right next solution, and we keep charging through when our body is starting to tell us that I cannot do anymore.
Right. Guilty.
It's fascinating how listening to the body again is the healing. And it doesn't mean having to leave the job. It doesn't mean it's just switching the brain, making the body do all the things, pushing, and flipping it and letting the heart, the vision, the well being of the owner be the engine and tell the brain what to do. And so that's where the insight comes. What do I need to hire? Do I need to call? I have a top salesperson, a very large company, and she took a whole year to do it so differently, to slow down. But her brain still invites her. It's like, are you sure? Am I crazy? She went from third to first in the company. It's working. It's manifestation. It's honoring that the doing more is not necessarily the value creator. It's the true genius of the person, the vision, and making sure that the hours work, the restorative processes that the body leads that conversation.
Diana Murphy, I needed to hear that today.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
It is the switch. We have been taught that the brain is like the thing. And look how beautifully smart you are, and look how you healed and survived brain cancer, and still, like,
I
look how
have.
beautifully smart you are. But our brain can talk us out of what we know is right for us too. And that's where we have to be on. In burnout, it is helping interrupt the mind that will go in circles and interrupt it and slow it down and let it heal and let it be afraid for a little bit that oh my God, the business is going to collapse. No. And take a breath and let the body lead the way. I
You know,
had
I
to learn
was
it the hard way too. And I think our world is learning this. I do think that we're learning this. We are knowing that 50-hour weeks, no matter who we are, is not helpful. I'm watching groups of physicians and physician coaches helping burnout in physician work. Like, think about that. If we start looking at things differently as a
right.
society, against in law and in medical and others, I think it's happening. We all are understanding with newer generations that aren't willing to live that way.
In my world, when people come to a realization that they can't keep going the way that they are, people
Yeah.
raise their hand with me because in my world, nobody comes to me that doesn't already have multiple advisors,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
have no idea how they're tracking.
Yeah.
Like all
Yeah.
these advisors are not talking.
Yeah. There's no
And they're like,
collaboration.
"Oh,
There's no
my
real
manages all my
team.
money, and they say I'm fine for retirement, but I don't really know." And like,
Yeah.
the advisor doesn't even know what their expenses are. I'm like, well, how do they know if they're okay? Like, how
Yeah.
do you scenario test that? So, in my world, it tends to be, and you touched on it, there's two elements. There's an education element and there's an engagement element.
Yes.
I actually did a whole TED talk around that with
Oh
money.
gosh.
Yeah. So that planning structure, and they don't have to know how the watch works, but to have some high level
Yeah.
salient points, it creates safety
Yeah.
through that information. And then being able to engage with the back to our point of how much info do we need and when do I find out the information and by doing that, by engaging with it several times a year, that gives more safety and they're
Yeah.
not as like frantic, like you said. And in my world, it's I'm gonna run out of money, I'm gonna be a bag lady. Like literally
Yeah.
that's one of the most common.
Yes, I have heard that a lot.
Yeah. I
And
never
it's like
even
when the
seen a bag lady.
mindset, that's where agency can come from, this engagement. That's
Right.
where abdication versus delegation. You're wrapping up like where we started, because when you take agency, when you get engaged just at a top level, like any good CEO with your own life, great results happen. Because then that leader will naturally start integrating things better by having more touch points and more education about their own stuff.
Yeah. Let's define what financial safety really is because we both know it's not net worth. I
Yeah.
know for me, it's clarity, control, and you touched on the term margin. Like, how do we have some white space and not perfection? God knows I'm bad at trying to get rid of perfectionist tendencies. And I've never seen anyone have health, all three of those at once.
So, from a coach lens, financial safety for me would be enough of an engagement with what their money is doing, that what the money is doing is what they intend. They're thoughtful about, yes, this goes for long term. They are thoughtful and engaged in how their money is working for them.
It
But they
aligns to their
also,
identity, back to your
yeah,
value point.
yeah, but they also are aware you do not need to heal scarcity. We don't need to fully heal perfectionism, because there's some deep wiring that we're just not going to change. And what I love as a coach is watching clients with an awareness of those and go, oh, I'm making decisions out of that energy by, so the financial security and safety would come from being aware of that and Oh, I'm not going to operate in that. I'm going to use my money in the way the visionary, the CEO intends. You
Right.
don't have to eradicate negative thinking. You just have to be aware when it has an impact that you don't want.
We have covered a lot. I want
Wow.
to go over some practical steps for human beings that might be
Yeah,
watching this.
I'd love that.
Yeah. And for me, it's get clear on cash flow.
Yeah.
Stop measuring your money with vanity metrics like BS revenue. Back to we talked about
Yeah.
that.
The metrics. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And bringing in multiple advisors and having a quarterback to coordinate that
Yeah.
conversation. And then finally, we discussed it a little bit, claim authority in financial decisions.
Yeah. I love it. Who mine I think the first level of responsibility as a leader is taking really good care of your own emotional well-being. A lot of good, a lot of insight, a lot of integrity will all come naturally if an owner is able to be really aware when they're overwhelmed and take care of themselves, or like what we were just talking about, taking emotional responsibility for how they are operating. If they need support, that they get it, that they have internal conversations that shift from judgment to clarity before they start making decisions or start communicating to their team. So I think that's just one of the most powerful. If you can monitor and shift your internal thinking, if it's really judgmental and harsh, and lean into curiosity and self compassion, especially when you're in a tight spot, your best will come from that. That's a first line. It's the first work I do with everyone I work with. And I feel like it's something that a lot of us have access to. And taking that responsibility is powerful as a leader. There's not a client I have worked with, I don't care how successful they are, that when they shift the way they think about themselves and drop the shoulds and drop any judgment, that they start having what they really want as a result. And it all comes from taking that off the table. So many of us were taught that pushing ourselves hard, that's where burnout comes from. We were taught that being hard on ourselves to get the result, like you should be working. And the ease and the power of leadership will always come from a grounded leader that is not moving from scarcity or moving from judgment, like, oh my God, we should be doing this. That's where the vanity metrics come from. I'm gonna push and push until this, and it just drops our insight on the other ways we want to show up.
That's great. You want to do a lightning round real quick?
Sure.
Okay. One quick money story women need to drop.
I don't have enough.
Got it. So for me, it's I don't have an MBA and I don't do math well, so I'm not good at money.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay.
Next one for you. One leadership habit that changes everything.
Taking radical care of themselves.
I'm going to call it empathy with your team for me.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Next one for you. I feel like we're playing cards. One decision women avoid too long.
Hiring well,
Actually, I'm
hiring
going to agree with
sooner.
that. And I'm going to call it hiring a number two, an
Yeah.
integrator.
Yeah. That would for a visionary. Yeah. Hmm.
Next one permission slip every woman needs.
Doing whatever they want with their time once a week, just whatever they want once a week.
I'm going to say taking a strategic day once a
Hmm.
month where it's
Yep.
just thinking time.
Yep. And that just feeds a visionary. Yep.
Yep.
So good.
And then one sign a woman is ready for a big transition.
They have watched the bullshit thoughts in their brain come up and they have taken care of it in the way of just realizing it's bullshit. And they have resourced themselves in the way they know is best for them so that they can do the next, so they can fly. And it looks different for every person.
Right.
But it's really like a lot will come up when you make a decision to go big.
Right.
And when we pay special attention, we won't procrastinate the next steps if we take care of ourselves in that part of it.
Absolutely. And for me, I think it's they hit a wall
Yeah.
and they're not ready till they're ready and they hit some sort of wall and
Yep.
then they're ready to
Yeah.
raise their hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, like, that's when we see people coming to us. They're ready to raise their hand.
Right.
What do I need here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be a little reflective with you. So, what's the one thing you want every successful woman that's listening to this to hear from you?
That they have done so much so well that in whatever disorientation they are in now, this simple slowing down and taking stock and making sure that they are cared for in a way they need to be is all that's needed. And it's can be so much faster to get out of that space than they think.
That's great. I'll add mine. You're allowed to feel powerful, clear, and supported, not just responsible.
Oh, I love that too. This
Yeah.
is why our values are so
Yeah, they are.
in sync, and it's so fun to hear. I think some of the most amazing people to know are founding business owners, and I count myself as one of those. Like, I have a
Absolutely.
miracle story. I literally do, all along the way, as I know you do.
So you can't just say that. So what's your full story? Have
I'm gonna say, okay, I'll make it as quick as possible. Who is an empty nest mom that decides to start a coaching practice, goes big, decides how she wants that to run, has a 39-year marriage disintegrate, and realize and know what she needed. I was in the coaching community, I had a lot of resource, but like this was all for me. And now I am living the life of my dreams. I really am. So I'm a miracle.
you sure are. And happy new marriage to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wasn't the destination, just like with most of us visionaries, but it is here and it is lovely.
No, that's wonderful. And I'm so happy for you with what you've been able to do and what you've overcome. So that's great.
Yep. You've inspired me with your story as well.
Yeah.
It's just great.
So I have all sorts of medical stuff and I just clicked over being one of the longest international glioblastoma or brain cancer survivors in the world. So
That
uh,
is something.
20 years. Yeah. Crazy story. That's for another YouTube video.
Yeah, but it's here. Like you have shared. I'm so glad you've been so vulnerable sharing your story because I think it really matters.
You know what's interesting about that, and it's true in coaching, I'm finding like a lot of people just aren't about stuff like that. I don't understand why not.
Yeah.
Like, why is this such a privacy thing? We've overcome challenges.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we lean into it and share that with others? And
Yeah. I do think that vulnerability is our power. Like
Mhm.
but that has been a journey for me as well of knowing, of really pulling back from it and realizing that is what's needed for people to understand if they can know, like, and trust me for what's going
Yeah,
on for them. And I know that's the same for you
yeah, absolutely.
and our clients. Like, I know our clients do better when you might be vulnerable internally and having the support of their team of really being known. We are more supported when we are known.
Well, an open communication like
Yeah.
helps any team, any
Yep.
relationship. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that's the secret. And so many people get private about stuff like that. And I remember 20 years ago when I got sick, like a lot of people were like, are you sure you want to talk about this? I'm like, why? I like literally, I'm like, why not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The power of our story. And I think a lot of us are understanding this in the way that we're communicating about our businesses now, because I don't think a lot of people make a lot of assumptions when, oh, I thought it was so easy. My best growth was when I was at a mastermind and the top coach that was leading the mastermind made everybody talk about their story of success. And I was like, oh, I'm just like them. I'm just at this point, or I'm just at this point. And I think that's actually the power of that is like helping people to understand the true humanness behind the scenes will helps them to
Absolutely.
not feel so isolated. That's my role in it. That's why I do it. You're
Right.
not alone in this.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yep.
So to everybody out there, if you're a woman making big decisions, whether in career, business, or wealth, you deserve clarity, space. Thank you, Diana, and support. And we are both here to help you step into that.
Yep.
Thank you, Diana. That was incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and where people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to look at my website, Diana Murphy Coaching. There's a way to connect to my newsletter there. If you are ready for a direct conversation, just hop on the phone and talk about what's going on for you. It's Diana at dianamurphycoaching.com. And I'm very approachable. I love helping people in the moment. And I have a boutique practice, but I really create space for engagements with people like that we're talking about today. That is what I'm here to do, is to work
Awesome.
with high capacity leaders. And if this has gotten your attention, I'd love to meet you and learn more about your business and your life.
Awesome, my friend. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I can't wait for more conversations.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.